What's going on, everybody? I hope you all had a great weekend. Welcome back to the channel for, I believe, the third Ask Me Anything of the new NHL season. Like always, I want to give a huge thank you to every single one of you who took the time out of your day to go ahead and come up with a question and leave it under the post. I do read every single comment, even though I can't feature them all in the video. Just know I read them all and I appreciate every single one. Let's jump right into things. This first question comes from NHL 2021, who says, would you ever consider doing a giant video where you answer every single Ask Me Anything? Probably not every single one, because there's usually, I would say, on average like 280 and up questions on every single post for interactive videos, so that would just take hours. And I don't mean it would take hours to put the video together, because most videos it does take a couple hours, but the video would literally be a few hours long. That would be a movie, so I don't know if that would be the best idea. But what I was thinking of doing is, if I hit 100,000 subscribers one day, I'll do an Ask Me Anything where I answer the first 100 questions. So if you're a fan of NHL content and you're new and you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. This next question comes from Canada Bricks, who says, with Alex Ovechkin seemingly being unstoppable this season, is there a chance we see him finish with 60 plus goals? I'm definitely not going to say it's out of the realm of possibilities. I mean, he's scoring at, I believe, like a 72 goal pace right now, and obviously he's going to slow down a bit. He's not going to shoot 20% the entire season, I don't think anyways, but even if he does slow down, I feel like he's still a lock for 50 goals this season. He's gotten himself off to such a hot start. I think 60 is in play for Ovechkin for sure. I hope he does it. He's just such a treat to watch. I honestly hope Ovechkin plays in the NHL till he's like 45, and I feel like if he wants to, he can. Moving along now, we have a question from Hugh Barkhurst, who says, do you think Riley's extension has played a big part in the Leafs turning things around? I will say maybe a little bit when it comes to the morale of the team. Early in the season, it seemed like everyone on that team was just down. They weren't having fun, and getting that kind of closure when it came to Morgan Riley, knowing that they're not going to have to worry about him leaving in free agency like a Zach Hyman, and before Hyman like a JVR and a Tyler Bozak, for an example. That was probably a pretty big weight off of the shoulders of a lot of players on the team, you know, the guys that have been there for a while, that have been teammates with Morgan Riley for their entire careers. So I would say it was definitely a pretty big boost for the morale in the dressing room, and that can definitely lead to them having on-ice success as well. Moving along now, this next comment comes from Mick Fleury, who says, now that Thanksgiving has passed, which current playoff team are you confident will drop out of a playoff spot by the end of the season? This is a pretty interesting question. This is honestly a pretty tough one as well. I was gonna say Anaheim. They're currently third in the Pacific, but what team would pass them over? Like the Sharks? I don't know, maybe they're kind of sliding a little bit. They're coming back down to earth. Los Angeles, I think they're probably going to remain close to 500 for the entire season. I honestly think there's a good chance the Ducks can hold on and remain a playoff team. So I'm actually going to go with the Columbus Blue Jackets. They currently hold the first wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference. They're 12-7, have been incredibly surprising, a very fun team to watch thus far. It's not that I don't think that they can remain a good team. I just feel like there's going to be a team that passes them. Probably the Boston Bruins have a pretty good chance. I think the Flyers and the Islanders are probably going to heat up and be in the playoff hunt towards the end of the season as well. So it's definitely between those two teams, Anaheim and Columbus, with Columbus probably having a higher chance of falling out just based on the teams that are chasing them right now. The next question comes from Trevor Lane, who says, come trade deadline, if the Seattle Kraken are bad, who do you think they're going to trade? And also, I appreciate the kind words. I would say just a lot of their expiring UFAs. I don't think they'll trade Mark Giordano, who is set to become a UFA, just because they named him captain. I feel like that would be a pretty bad look. I imagine they plan on re-signing him for at least another season or two. I really feel like Calle Yarncroke is a player that's going to draw a ton of interest around the trade deadline. He's one of those players that can do a little bit of everything. He can chip in like 15 goals on average in a season. He's really good on the penalty kill, real strong defensive forward, can play up and down the lineup. I think a lot of teams could use a player like him, and if I'm not mistaken, he is set to become a UFA at the end of the season, so he's a player I could see Seattle moving, and I think they could probably at least get like a second round pick for him. This next question comes from AEO234, who says, thoughts on Rem Pitlick, waiver pickup, and has been great with 8 points in 11 games. He's definitely been a really solid addition for the Wild. I remember like in training camp kind of before the season started, because I follow like beat writers for every team on Twitter just to try and keep up with everything, and I remember seeing a quote from Bill Guerin when it was supposed to be down to like the final 2 roster spots for players who are going to make the Wild team, and Bill Guerin was like, well, no, it's actually down to 1 roster spot because we claimed Rem Pitlick and we plan plan on him being an everyday player, so they must have really liked Rem Pitlick even before he was in Minnesota, before they claimed him. It's nice to see guys who are placed on waivers and claimed have success with their new team. Those kinds of players definitely probably play with a chip on their shoulder. Moving along now, we have a question from Ben Muir. I hope I said your last name properly. What teams do you think should just embrace the tank and go for Shane Wright? Mainly teams that had expectations but aren't living up to them. Well, without even looking at anything, the two teams that come to mind first, the Montreal Canadiens. Obviously, they made the Stanley Cup Finals and they definitely had at least some expectations heading into this season. Like, that team had playoff aspirations. They lost Philip Deneau, but they went out and immediately replaced him by trading for Christian Dvorak. That really hasn't worked out. At this point, I feel like they should probably just embrace the tank and go for Shane Wright. I think they're too far out of it to get back into the playoff race at this point, even though we are only, like a quarter of a way into the season. There's a lot of ground to make up there. And could you imagine a power play in a couple years with Shane Wright and Cole Caulfield on it? That would be pretty dangerous. The other team is actually another Canadian team, the Vancouver Canucks, a team that is just, I don't even know what to say about them at this point. They're all out of sorts. I still cannot believe they haven't made a change yet. Even firing Travis Green, not saying he's the problem there, but just to make a change. Jim Benning being there still is ridiculous. I don't think the Canucks would ever do it, but I feel like the best thing for them right now would be to just blow it up this one season, reset. You don't have to go into a full-on rebuild. Just give yourself the best odds at Shane Wright possible this season, reset in the offseason, and then try to go after it again. I definitely don't think they're going to do that. I don't think that organization wants to admit that they were wrong, but I feel like that's honestly what would be the best thing for them this season. This next question comes from Young Grady, who says, will Cale Makar hit 30 goals this season as a D-man? He's already got 9 in just 16 games. I think there's honestly a good chance we could see that happen. I believe the last time we saw a defenseman score 30, it was Mike Green when he was playing for the Capitals. If there was going to be a player to do it again, I feel like Cale Makar is a pretty good candidate. A lot of Mike Green's goals that season came on the power play. A lot of Cale Makar's goals come on the power play. It would be pretty fun to see, so I hope Cale Makar does it, and I really don't think it's that far-fetched either. From Notorious Nick, are the Rangers for real right now? Do you think they will be able to continue what they have been able to accomplish so far? I honestly do think the Rangers are for real. They have pretty much everything you would want in a contender. They have the offensive firepower with guys like Panarin and Zibanejad, even though they aren't absolutely lighting it up this season. With the emergence of a guy like Chris Kreider who's scoring at a torrid pace, that definitely helps. They have arguably the best defenseman in the National Hockey League in Adam Fox, who won the Norris last season. He very well could win it again this season. And of course, they have the ace #1 goaltender in Igor Shesterkin. If he keeps giving them great goaltending performances, if their depth can keep chipping in offense here and there behind the top forwards, I think the Rangers are in for a great year, and they're definitely going to make the playoffs, I feel like. The next comment comes from Juan Jose Pazmino. I hope I said that properly, but speaking of the Rangers, the question is thoughts on the Panarin glove throw. To be honest with you, I thought it was hilarious. I really didn't feel like it warranted a fine. I thought, 2 minutes for unsportsmanlike conduct would do it. It's just something that's like, it doesn't really seem like a big deal to me. It's not like he threw his helmet or his stick. He threw his glove and he didn't even throw it at his face. Like, no harm done. You can see Brad Marchand in the post-game interview. He kind of had a chuckle about it. He didn't really care. I feel like it's kind of a joke that Panarin got the same discipline for the glove throw that Josh Morrissey got, I think, like a week or so ago for that slash on, I can't remember who it was, after an empty net goal. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. I'll try to put a picture of it up on the screen. But like, those two things getting the same discipline is messed up, and there's a lot of other examples of it as well, of players doing a lot worse than what Panarin did and getting just the $5,000 fine. Next up, we have a question from Pump Up Hockey, who says, do you think Andrew Mangiapane will reach the 40 goal mark this year, or will he slow down? I definitely think he's going to slow down. He's not going to score at this pace for the entire season, but 40 goals is definitely within reach, just based off of the fact he already has 15 in 21 games. I'm going to say he doesn't do it. I feel like he's going to finish more around like the 32-33 mark in terms of goals scored. Like, he's shooting 27.3% right now. That's not going to be sustainable for the entire season. And also, I feel like he just doesn't get enough ice time to be a 40 goal scorer. His average ice time per game this season is under 15.5 minutes. I wonder when the last time we saw someone score 40 goals with that little ice time. I'd like to see that stat. This next question comes from Exertion, who says, outside of the big three of Raymond and Sider and Zegras, who can you see pushing for Calder as the season progresses? Quite a few under the radar rookies playing very well. One that I feel like a lot of people are forgetting about, and I'm not trying to sound bias here, but Alex Nedeljkovic, goaltender for the Red Wings, is actually eligible for the Calder again. Even though he was a nominee last season, he can win it this year, and he's really heating up. He's definitely the best rookie goalie in the league this season. So there's one. Another one I really like is Dawson Mercer in New Jersey. I really like his game. He's playing very well, and he's quickly becoming a very important player for the New Jersey Devils. I'm trying to think of guys that are actually already playing big roles for their teams, and I feel like Dawson Mercer is, Nedeljkovic is for the Red Wings as well. So those are just a couple off the top of my head, but like you said, there are definitely a lot of under the radar rookies playing well, a lot of guys that I didn't mention. Rema, I probably butchered that, I apologize in advance, but do you think some of the free agents, most notably Marleau, Stahl, and Dubnyk, sign a deal before the deadline? This is a very interesting question. Of the three, I feel like the most likely to sign somewhere would be Eric Stahl. He's at a position of need for a lot of teams, playing the center position. You know, all it takes is one injury and then team is kind of scrambling for a replacement, so I feel like Stahl could get scooped up on a league minimum deal by a team that gets an injury to a centerman at some point. And on top of that, I feel like he has the most left to give, most left in the tank of the three players you mentioned there. He was obviously, you know, a decent contributor for Montreal in their route to the Stanley Cup Finals last year. So of those three, I feel like Stahl would be the most likely to get signed, and honestly, I feel like there's probably a pretty good chance he does. And now for the final question of the episode, this one comes from Eliminator, who says, do you think Connor Bedard will make Team Canada this year for the World Juniors? I'm going to go out on a limb and say he does. I mean, just comparing him to Alexis Lafreniere. Lafreniere made the team a year before his draft year. He wasn't a huge factor, he didn't play a huge role, but he made the team, and I think there's a pretty good chance we see a similar thing to that happen with Connor Bedard. He's probably not going to play a huge role, may not be one of the leading scorers on the team, but I really feel like he'll be there. So that is going to wrap up this episode of the Ask Me Anything series. Like I always say, I hope you guys are enjoying this series as much as I'm enjoying making it. These kinds of videos are definitely by far my favorite to make. I love answering your guys' questions. I love just the relaxed, laid back vibes of these videos where I just answer your guys' questions. It's a lot of fun. So if you enjoyed, be sure to let me know by leaving the video a like. I'd really appreciate that. And if this is your first time checking out the channel, you're new, you want more NHL content just like this throughout the season, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you all soon.